Hello everyone, today is Thursday, April 29th, and I'll be going over my recap for today. So today I made a total of 672 between my two brokers. 1,054 of it was from my TD Ameritrade account, and I had a loss in my Trade Zero account of 382, totaling for 672. So I'll be going over my thought process for each of my trade as usual. And if you haven't done so, be sure to hit the subscribe and like button if you enjoy these videos. So just to start off, I look at two strategies in my trading, and that is the long setup flag pennant, where resistance becomes support, and then you draw the flag line and take that break. And then the short side, which is a short setup, which is the inverted cup and handle. So an extension and then looking for that lower high and then shorting on that cup and handle break. So let's get started on my recap here. Starting from the top. So HOFV was my biggest winner today. This was an after hour trade. Although there was a few triggers, here's one spot where you can possibly take pretty much the inverted or the flag break that I was mentioning. Prior resistance became support, and you could have buy that flag, and it pretty much went. You can risk here, and it went probably 2.5 hours right there. But what I did here after hours was kind of a similar support resistance here became support, and then you can look in here where resistance here became support. So it's like a flag within a flag, or a cup and handle within a cup and handle, and the buy spot was around here for this bigger flag break. But I went ahead and went in a little early here when it's holding this 430 level. And I held 2,000 shares there and sold when it was pushing above this flag break. So I sold into the pushes here with my best sells around 460 or so, which were these highs, and I took the rest off when it was breaking down the 1 minute trend here. There was another potential 15-minute kind of trend hold flag here that I attempt to take. I took it there and then took it off when it wasn't going anywhere. So it's a small $20 loss here. And I think it was worth the risk in case it had a nice little bounce to retest highs. But that was a overall $352 win on HOFV. Next trade is METX. So METX had a pretty nice fade here from the highs all the way back down to the hourly chart. So that's one thing I need to improve on, is learning how to trail a trade when it is working. So what I saw here was you can see it broke highs, and then finally broke highs again. And that's with each high break, you can see the increase in volume there. So there was a 5-minute reversal here where you can see the little inverted cup and handle. Went ahead and draw this line, and I went to size in here the first 500 shares, risking the 235 level, and then I went ahead and sized a little more on that confirmation of the trend line break, which was the cup and handle spot there. It broke. Went ahead and took most of my profits here on the 15-minute 90 EMA, which is this gray line, and then it just had a really hard time to bounce there and trail all the way back down to the hourly, where I think it finally bounced on the daily 90 EMA, which is this green line. So that was a $251 win there. I attempted to add a few more shares here during this break, but I didn't get fill, but I wanted around 3,000 to 4,000 shares there. So that's METX. Next trade is OCGN, for $208 win. So there's a couple trade here that I took. One of them was a long trade here. So this first trade was a long setup around here. You can see that there's a nice little flag holding, higher lows. So I take a little break there, risking the prior low, hoping for a trend higher. It ended up having a little small push, and I ended up taking it off there for like a small win. I think it was like a $70-$80 win. And then I just took it off because I felt it didn't have enough follow through and the volume wasn't picking up. So the next trade I took was around here for this flag break. So I went ahead and attempted a dip buy off this break line. Attempted a dip buy off this break line and then sold onto that small push. And then I tried to buy again on this higher day and it didn't go anywhere, so I took a loss there. And then I went ahead and looked for a short because you can see it broke higher days and it was failing to continue higher. Now went ahead and looked for a trend line break. So this trend line broke. I went ahead and sized in, risking higher days. There's also another spot here around here. I can take that break, and then I started in there. I covered at 12, reshorted the pop around 1207 after 1210, which was the prior breakdown, became resistance, and then I covered back down at 12 again, and then tried to reshort here, and I was kind of expecting a full 50-minute test. But it ended up kind of bouncing a little bit there before a full test. So that was a decent win there. Total $208 win from these multiple trades here, both on the long side and the short side. So next trade is VXRT for $185 win. VXRT. So this had a nice signal. I was kind of watching this. I was hoping for, so you can see like with each high day push, it's a red candle and high volume. So that just shows a lot of weakness and a lot of overhead longs or just someone unloading onto those higher day push. But what I was kind of expecting was, so this push here was the biggest volume of the day, which was this little wick. I was hoping for a inverted cup and handle here and then break. That would have got me in 100%. But it kind of had a high day push and then boom, it got slammed back down. So it didn't give a really entry point there for me to enter. So I just kind of continue just watch this throughout the day, and didn't have any signal anywhere. There's a possible 15-minute reversal signal here after that fail flag, and they can potentially short that, risking these highs here, and then you can have a little move there. But the trade that I took was over here, and you can see it was creating lower highs, and then this is a nice little inverted cup and handle, where you can take a short, risking the prior high there, and I went ahead and just cover, and I cover right at the lows there, 893s, and that was pretty much the low point of the day. So that was a $185 win there on VXRT. Next trade is WVVI. So WVVI was a long trade. So took a long trade. I was trying to look for a kind of early entry on this, and that spot could have been this right here at the 1475 break, risking here. So that would have been the better spot. I ended up taking the flag break when it was dipping here, and then I took that flag break and I sold into these pushes. But the better entry would have been here, where it would you get a tighter risk, and then potentially it just breaks through the bigger flag, and that would have been a nice little reward there. So that was a $100 win or so on WVVI. Next trade is OCUL. This was a kind of flat break-even trade. I think this was a little bit extended, but I went ahead and attempted a little short trade here. I took that short on that inverted cup and handle, went ahead and covered when it reached the 15-minute target, and didn't go much after that. That was just a $15 win on OCUL. Next trade was MVIS. So this was an after-hour trade. Didn't really trade it in the normal hours, but there was a potential kind of flag line here. It is pretty bearish because it's coming from a downtrend and it is consolidating on the bottom. But I was trying to look kind of both sides here. I didn't have shorts located, but I was kind of look for a long, potential long, and maybe you can get a squeeze back up and test the 15-minute chart or the hourly chart. But I ended up being a little cautious and just sold into these pushes. And you can see the big candle here when it broke the flag line, got rejected. And then again, that inverted cup and handle for that nice break there. And now it's continuing to sell off from that. So next trade is PIXY, PIXY. So PIXY was another small loss here, and it was a the first. So I got the backside down, but it wasn't the best trade because it was a little bit extended from these highs here, and I was kind of expecting more of a bounce. So the bounce that I got was this little green candle bounce for that inverted cup and handle. But because it came from such a high point here at 360, I was expecting a bigger bounce, right? So maybe a bigger bounce, more consolidation, and then a break. So it wasn't a really clean signal there, and it got me stopped out on this little push here, which hit my prior high stop. But the other spot to take was this trendline break here. You can take that trendline break, risking the prior highs here, and that would have been a tight little risk, and then getting your 5-minute VWAP target, and ended up also trailing back down to the 15-minute target on your 9 EMA. So that was a good little trade there. In the afternoon, there was a potential setup here that you can potentially take, and that was either one here or the other one would be in here. So it was a nice little risk reward here. You might kind of can get in a little early from this break trend line here, and then maybe it'll break above the trend line, and then when it was holding this VWAP, it broke this trend line, and that would have been a nice spot to enter after prior resistance became support here, and it was holding VWAP. So that was that trade. Just a small little loss. Next trade was ATOS. So ATOS, I took a loss in the morning. I think it was for a $100 loss or so, $150 loss. So I took a trade here in the long side right here, and then I took a stop here, and that was I guess that was a $20 loss. And then I went ahead and attempt another this might have been another long trade. So this time it was a little early, so I was expecting it to hold VWAP and then break the 255. It ended up not breaking 255, and then had to stop me out once it was doing a inverted cup and handle. So that took me out there, and I was down 150 on the name on ATOS. I ended up getting a nice short here to regain some of that loss back, and that was this kind of trend line. You can see this trend line is pretty respected trend line, and I was looking for lower highs, and then break of that, risking pretty much to these prior highs. Pretty tight risk for the potential reward. So I made a $100 back here, just down a total of 42 on ATOS. So that's a decent trade to regain those losses back. And then on my trade zero, I was down 382, and that was on GRTX. So GRTX here, I was also short bias due to the daily. It was extended, but just from the movement today, it looks like it's already made its move on the downside. But I was still a little short bias here, and I had a nice little trend line that I was respecting. I kind of missed the entry here where it broke, and then you can see high volume on that trend line break. That could have been a quick little scalp, but I went in a little early when it was, you can see this trend line, and this trend line was getting tight here. So I went in and sized in a little bit, expecting the crash here of the trend line, but it ended up squeezing me out here for a loss. And it was multiple losses. I think after it rejected here, I went in again around here, and then it popped up over here and stopped me out. And then again, when I was trying to short the pop here, it went back down a little bit, and then it squeezed me out here. So it was a loss here. So I took probably 4 losses in here, and I guess the topic of the day was knowing when to kind of give up and just move on, because I pretty much took 4 trades here on GRTX, and I took 4 losses. So just a rule of thumb, it's probably best to kind of move on if you take 2 losses in a row, and that can potentially just minimize your losses. But yeah, overall today I'm up 672 from my 2 brokers, 1054 from my TD Ameritrade, Thinkorswim, and then a 382 loss on Trade Zero. So yeah, as always, if you haven't done so, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you enjoy these content and my insights on my trades. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. Bye, guys.